Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to everything I read in March. So without any further ado, let's start with the first thing that I read, and that is the tarot reader of Versailles by Anya Bergman. First of all, the cover of this is absolutely stunning. I love the gold foiling on it. It kind of like resembles the border of a tarot card. This was so good. This was everything I wanted and more. It takes place during the French Revolution, during Marie Antoinette's decapitation, and our main character is not Marie Antoinette, as you would expect, but it is Lenormand, who was like a real, actual historical figure as Marie Antoinette herself. And Lenormand is a fortune teller, so she obviously can predict, let's say, the future of the people that she's reading for. She was quite popular in France for her tarot reading abilities, but this book explores pretty much what happens when she stumbles upon a very mysterious young lady named Caitlin or Catherine. I think it's Kate for short, but Kate has a very specific ability of telling people's past based on their palm. I think they're calling it palmistry or something like that when you read someone's past in their palm. And they kind of team up together to form this very powerful duo of fortune tellers and like chiromancers, I guess. Lenormand slowly but steady becomes friends with Marie Antoinette, and this is what slowly divides Lenormand and Kate. Obviously, Lenormand is very close to Marie Antoinette, but Kate has a lot of other ulterior motives to her friendship with Lenormand. This is my first book by this author, Anya Bergman, and I saw that she has another book called The Witches of Vardo, which I already bought, and I'm very excited to read that one as well. It's also in this realm of like a historical fiction with some aspects of magical realism, and yeah, if this sounds enticing to you, I would highly recommend The Reader of Versailles. Now, because of this book, I also got reminded of tarot as a whole. As I was saying in the previous video, I am somewhat familiar with the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck, and because of that, in the month of March, I also got another book about tarot. This is not really a book that you would read from start to finish. It's more so like a guide. I wanted to get this book for some time now, and because of the tarot reader of Versailles, I finally got it. This is The Sacred Art of Tarot by Liz Dean. This is absolutely gorgeous. It has some gold foiling on the cover and also on the back. It has these motifs on the back in gold foil as well. Also, the edges are gold foil, which I don't really care for, but at least they're not those like sparkly edges that just like spread everywhere when you're reading the book. So at least that's nice. But yeah, I was familiar with Liz Dean's work because I own this ebook also by this author. I think it's called The Ultimate Guide to Tarot or something like that. I will put a picture here on the screen. But I read that book and I was referencing it every now and then when I wanted to get a specific interpretation for a card, or I just wanted to make sure that I'm reading things correctly. I would reference that book. The problem with an ebook is that it's kind of hard to reference it like over and over again, to just like scroll through the chapters and through the different parts of it and stuff like that. And now I have this book, so I will not have to do that in the future. This is fully colored, the interior of it, with the different cards, and it looks absolutely fantastic, as you would expect. Also, what I really appreciate about this book is that it has some spreads that I didn't hear about until now. I recently did I think it's called the Life Path Number spread, which was really interesting. And yeah, I'm looking forward to like slowly get to do some different spreads. So yeah, I'm just learning a lot of things about myself and how I'm interpreting different aspects of life and stuff like that. So this is a tarot book that I would recommend if you are specifically a beginner, as I am. I think everything is explained well. It is very simple to understand, and also it provides a lot of context on what certain symbols represent or are meant to represent in these tarot cards, and also how to interpret multiple cards in a reading at a time, how they influence each other and stuff like that. So I would really recommend this book. And now the last thing tarot related that I wanted to mention in this video. So ever since it got released, I've been using this Tarot of Woodland Wardens by Jessica Rue. I have this illustrator's oracle deck that I've been loving for the past year or so, and when this one got released, I knew I had to have it, and this is kind of like what got me into tarot in the first place. The illustrations from this one are just out of this world, and I'm mesmerized every single time I'm using this deck. Let me quickly show you the cards. So this would be an example of what this deck contains. These are just so beautiful. I love this High Priestess one so much, with the whole pomegranate motif and the moon right here, and also the scroll. I just love it. And then these are the backs of the cards. But my only kind of like issue that I've been encountering with these cards is that the cardstock that they use is quite thick. So I'm not really able to shuffle them as much as I would like to shuffle them. So because of that, I got another deck that I love so much more for just like shuffling and kind of like everyday use, and that is Matt Hughes' Ethereal Visions Illuminated Tarot deck. This one, it's a very popular one. I'm sure you've already seen this one if you were ever interested in tarot, but these cards are so cool looking, and also the cardstock is much more manageable, let's say, for shuffling your cards and just for everyday use. So this is how they look. They are gold foiled, so I don't know how well my camera is going to show that, but yeah, these are just so beautiful. I like this Art Nouveau style that Matthew is using with this tarot deck, and also these are the backs of the cards, and I've been using these ones pretty much every single day when I'm doing kind of like my morning pull in order to learn more about the cards and what they represent and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been really nice to be able to do that and to just do something else other than scrolling on my phone or actually reading. So yeah, I'm done with tarot. Let's continue with this wrap up. Next up, in March, I read a very highly anticipated book, and that is Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett. This is the author of Emily Wilde, of the Emily Wilde series, and I've been loving that series so much. I think it's great for like a cozy fantasy type of a series if you also enjoy fairies that are kind of wicked but also kind of charming. That series was amazing. So I was really excited to read this new release. Unfortunately, it didn't really do that much for me. This is the type of book that you would read in a day where, or in which you don't have anything else to do. It's maybe raining outside and you just want to decompress, to read a book that is not that challenging and to just relax. This is that type of book. And I just don't know if I was in that specific mood when I read this one. The main characters from this book, I think there were a lot of missed opportunities with them, and as a result of that, they were not as memorable to me. I think the like supporting cast of characters is actually more interesting than the main characters. I really liked the magician's kind of like sister that's kind of evil, but not really, whatever. It's a whole thing. But let me tell you what this book is actually about. So obviously Agnes Aubert is our main character. She is running this cat shelter, and in this world it is kind of like the real world, but they have magic and they have magicians or like warlocks or whatever they are. And the magicians are dueling themselves quite often. So when they're doing that, they're also damaging the surroundings. And unfortunately, Agnes's shop was pretty much bombarded by one of these magical duels, and she has to relocate because her landlord doesn't have the means to repair the shop. And she keeps on trying to just move to another shop, but she can't really afford anything else. And other than that, the landlords of these other shops, they don't want cats in their spaces. So she has a really tough time until one day when she discovers this shop that kind of like receives her and her cats open armed, and she is kind of confused by that because until that point she had a tough time finding a space, but now all of a sudden they are excited to receive her and her cats. So she's a bit confused as to why that is, but she accepts because she doesn't have any other option. And very shortly afterwards, she discovers that her new landlord is actually a magician, and it might actually be the same magician that ruined her first shop. And from there, a whole thing starts between them. And yeah, I just don't know if the romance between the two of them was that believable. It was just not for me. It was not for me and not for this moment in my life. So yeah, unfortunately, this was a bit of a miss for me. I wouldn't say that I hate it, but it was just fine in the grand scheme of things. So this is Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett. Afterwards, it pains me to say this because this is an arc, and that is to say that I didn't pay for this book. But this was really not great, and I wanted to DNF this at multiple times, but I was just so far into it that I didn't really want to do that. This is Shield of Sparrows by Daphne Perry. I think this came out in 2025. This is pretty much a pastiche of the romantasy genre. Like, you have everything that exists in other romantasy books, but it is just mixed up in this book, and with not that many changes to make this memorable or kind of like stand on its own. In my opinion, you have a princess who's forced to marry this guy that she didn't know anything about, and she's all of a sudden put in this new situation where she has to be the spy for her kingdom. She discovers that her father has all of these like crazy ideas about violating the pact between the kingdoms, and discovering this like huge thing about a rival kingdom. And it just seems kind of formulaic and anticlimactic because every single time you're supposed to be gagged by a plot point, that just ends up being disappointing because everything that you would expect to happen happens eventually. Yeah, I don't know if I want to continue with this series. Probably not. Maybe it will become better as we get more books from this series, but I just didn't really connect with this one. The main character has a lot of questions that are not answered throughout the book, and that was also kind of frustrating to me as a reader. Like, okay, I understand that you're in a new situation. It's normal to have like a lot of questions about yourself and what you're doing and about the world that you're all of a sudden put in, but I would expect some answers, and unfortunately we don't get any answers, just questions. And very often like weird sentence structure, or I guess the sentences are kind of like cut weirdly. Yeah, I just didn't really like this one. I know it's huge online and I know a lot of people like it. So if you happen to be one of those people that really like this book, maybe tell me in the comments what specifically is it about this book that you like. I would like to find out. So yeah, this is Shield of Sparrows by Daphne Perry. And then next up, I read a book that I actually listened to. So this is Lissarina's memoir. It is You Better Believe I'm Gonna Talk About It. I listened to the audio of this because it is narrated by Lissarina herself, and I just love Lissarina so much, so I had to listen to this. This was cute. It was just so unapologetically Lissarina that I don't even know what to say about it. Like, if you like Lissarina, maybe give this one a listen. It was really enjoyable, and I think she has such a way of like looking at life and explaining certain things that she went through in her life together with her husband, and also how she raised and educated her daughters. And yeah, this was really fun. I don't really know what to say about the writing style because this book is so Lissarina. Like, I can't differentiate between what's her voice and what's the writing, and how this would actually be if you just like read it as a book on the page and not listen to the audio. But I had a great time listening to this. I remember being quite in my feelings when I read this book or when I listened to it, and this just kind of brought a smile. So yeah, You Better Believe I'm gonna talk about it by Lissarina. As I said, if you're a fan of Lissarina's, give this a listen, because I don't think you're gonna be disappointed by it. Next up, I finally read Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. I've been absolutely loving The Unmaking of June Farrow when I read that, and I immediately afterwards bought this book, and it's been on my physical TBR ever since. But in March, I finally felt like reading this one. Now, I wouldn't say that this was as impactful as the other book, as The Unmaking of June Farrow, but this was so charming and thrilling. It's basically exploring all of these secrets from an island where a very tight-knit community lives. And we are following a character who is pretty much going back to this island to bury his mom, and all of a sudden all his past comes back to bite him in the ass. Basically, he is reminded of all of the horrible things that happened to him and to his mom while living on this island, and he might not be able to leave now because of that. You definitely have this feeling that something doesn't feel quite right, that all of the other characters have some secrets, have some ulterior motives to the actions that they do, or how they, carry themselves next to some other characters and stuff like that. It also has like a very charming and cozy and calming aspect to it, but then it kind of veers into this unsettling unknowingness, if that makes sense. Yeah, this was charming. I liked it, but again, I don't think it was as strong as The Unmaking of June Farrow. But yeah, I'm happy that I finally read this one, and I know Adrienne Young has a new-ish release. It's something also with a blue cover, if I'm not mistaken, but yeah, I would be interested to read that one as well eventually. So this was Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. Next up, I read two novellas. The first one that I read is by Tamsin Muir, the author of Gideon the Ninth. And this is Princess Floralinda and the 40 Flight Tower. This was so funny and so unhinged, and I loved it so much. This is basically a novella about the princess locked in the tower trope. at the beginning of the novella, you have this witch who locks up our princess in a fortified tower, as the title of the book says. And she pretty much doesn't really have any motive to do that other than the fact that our main character is a princess and eventually like a prince will save her. But what happens when all of the princes that are supposed to save our princess in distress turn up being dead or turn up being killed by the monster that is housed at the ground floor of the tower, which is a dragon? Pretty much the tower has like a mythical creature or something very dangerous hidden in each floor, and the princes were supposed to save Princess Floralinda. But when all of them are killed and no other princes are showing up, Floralinda realizes that she might have to take this problem into her own hands and she might have to save herself. I really liked the fact that at the beginning of the story, she's very reserved and she pretty much plays this kind of like dumb, ditzy girl. And then as the story unfolds and as we get to know her more and more, we learn that she's not as clumsy as she made us believe in the first place. And even though sometimes she is clumsy, she's playing that to her advantage. And this book was very charming and sweet and funny. And this was my first book by Tamsin Muir that I'm reading, but I really want to read some more from this author because I really liked this one. I know the Gideon the Ninth series is not complete yet. I think we are waiting for the fourth book. So that's why I didn't really got into that. It's because with series, I might as well just like binge them, like read everything in one go close together so that I don't have to remember everything that happened in the last books. That's why I didn't start that one. But as soon as we know something about, I think it's Alecto the Ninth, the last book in that series, as soon as we have a publication date or like some news about that, I will start to read that series because I'm very intrigued after Princess Floralinda in the Fortified Tower. Also, something else that I wanted to say about Princess Floralinda, the novella, is that at a certain point in the book, we meet another character. And I really liked the exploration that happens with that second character that shows up, more so from the lens of like gender. And I will just leave it at that because I don't want to give you any spoilers. But yeah, I think this was a really strong novella by Tamsin Muir. After that, the second novella that I read this month was A Spindle, Splintered by Alexi Harrow. I was just scrolling on my Kindle trying to decide what to read next, and I stumbled upon this one and I felt like it was finally time for me to read it. So A Spindle, Splintered was very interesting, I will say. Definitely not my favorite book by Alexi Harrow. I think our main character was a bit too... I don't even know what's the word for it, but I just didn't really like her up until towards the end of the novella. So A Spindle Splintered follows our main character whose name I already forgot. Zenaya Gray is her name, and Zenaya Gray has this illness, chronic illness that is very rare, and she pretty much was told that she's going to die all of her life. She's now 21, I believe, and she keeps on living. The doctors don't really know how much time she has left. It might be a month, it might be 3 years, it might be 5 years, they don't know. So one day on her birthday, she's just like catapulted into a fairy tale, and she might have to save the princess in this fairy tale, but in doing so, she might also solve her health situation. I think it's a very interesting concept, and this is a series. I know there's a second book in this series that's already published. So I would be interested to read the second novella in this series to see if I like more our character after what she had to endure in this book. I think that because I read The Six Deaths of the Saint prior to reading this book, I just have the underlying feeling that The Six Deaths is so much stronger than this one. So that might also be why I didn't really connect as much with A Spindle Splintered. And then because I read some like smaller or like shorter books, I thought it was finally time for me to read this mammoth of a book, which is obviously Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. This is just a bit under 1,400 pages. And sometimes I did struggle with this book. Sometimes I just felt like I want to soft DNF it and maybe read something else in between. But I know myself, and if I stop, I'm not gonna get back into it in like the near future at least. So I pushed through. I finished Rhythm of War, and obviously without spoiling anything, because this is like a massive series. In my opinion, personally, in my personal opinion, I do think that this book was stronger than the third one, but not as good as the first two books in the Stormlight Archive. So Oathbringer, I think, was my least favorite book from Stormlight, the third book. And then this one, I'm happy to report that I liked much more than Oathbringer. I'm so happy that we got to see more of Shallan and of Kaladin, and even with Dalinar, like I think the points of view were pretty evenly split in this book. Also Navani. Oh my god. I felt like Navani was one of the characters that's going to become more important as the series goes on, and my instinct was correct, because I do believe that she's pretty much the star of this book. So yeah, I enjoyed a lot Navani's story, and we finally got to see why she was behaving in the way that she was at the beginning of Stormlight. This was so marvelous, not perfect, but I liked it a lot. I am looking forward to finally reading the fifth book in the Stormlight Archive. I hope soon. Yeah, I'm really proud of myself that I pushed through this one, because, as I said, I enjoyed it. And if you feel stuck, know that you're not the only one, but push through, because I don't think you will be disappointed by this book. So this was Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. Now, after Rhythm of War, I went back to shorter books, and I read Jeanette Winterson's Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit. I've seen this book so many times in the bookstore, and last time I went there, I finally decided to buy it, and just something spoke to me, so I knew I had to read it sooner rather than later. So I dedicated maybe like a day to read through this. This was so well written. I loved it. It's so a bit absurd at times, but I definitely did connect a lot with our main character, whose name is also Jeanette. And Jeanette has been growing up in like a very religious household, and the first half of the book pretty much walks us through what it was like to grow up near her mother, and she was definitely very close to God, very religious, but as she started to transition into teenagehood, Jeanette fell in love with this other girl, and it is pretty much exposed to us what she had to go through after her congregation discovered this relationship that she had with this other girl. I also really appreciated the introduction by the author, by Jeanette Winterson, for this book. There were a lot of passages that I underlined, and I just think this is a modern classic, and I think that you should read it if you didn't read it until now. I think this was marvelous, and I'm definitely looking forward to read more of Jeanette Winterson's work. I posted some pictures with this on Instagram, and I received like a couple of messages from people with other recommendations from this author. So for sure, this is one of those writers that I will have to constantly go back to because I enjoyed this a lot. This was marvelous. Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson. I also really like this specific binding by Vintage, from the collection Vintage Classics. It has this sort of like cloth here where it's colored in red, and I like that touch a lot. Also, it has like one of these ribbons that you can use it as like a bookmark. This edition is very, very nice. Next up, towards the end of March, I read T. Kingfisher's newest release, Wolfworm. If you have any sort of fear of contagion, specifically with insects, I'm being serious, do not read this book, or like check what it is about before you read it, because I think it's gonna give you nightmares. Now, I have a very severe fear of contagion, not with insects, but in March, I discovered that is because of my OCD that I've been diagnosed with. So that makes a lot more sense in retrospect. This specific book, it is sort of like a thriller with horror elements. It's definitely gorier than some other T. Kingfisher books that I read in the past. But again, if you're squeamish, if you don't like insects being all over like human bodies, if you fear of like anything related to insects, don't read it, okay? I personally really loved this book. It just felt so much more elevated than other T. Kingfisher books. And I think it's truly because of the horror elements that were infused into this one. So at the beginning of the book, we are following our main character, Sonia. This is the end of the 1800s, and Sonia is an illustrator. She is hired to illustrate a book with insects for this doctor who has like a very big collection of insects, and he is working on his next book. But this doctor lives in like a very secluded house somewhere in the middle of the forest in North Carolina. Everything is very isolated from the town that's nearest to this house. But because she doesn't really have any other option, she goes there and she starts having all of these questions like who was her predecessor, because she's just mesmerized by the illustrations that Dr. Halder was showing to her before she actually started working there. And one day, while she is just strolling around the house, she sees this shed whose door is locked, so she doesn't really know what's hiding there. Some animals start disappearing. She sees Dr. Halder going through these mysterious walks in the middle of the night, and she has some theories, but she might find out that the truth is actually even more frightening than her theories. This was chilling and thrilling and captivating, and I just loved it so much. It's horror mixed with kind of like found family and existential dread, and I loved every second of it. So yeah, if you're not squeamish about gory scenes and insects, I would highly recommend Wolfworm by T. Kingfisher. And then last but not least, in March, I actually started reading my first manga series ever, which I'm very excited about. But this is Witch Hat Atelier. This is the first volume, and I also read volume 2 in March. I am currently now on volume 8 that I just started this morning as of the filming of this video, and this series is just so good. As I said, this being my first manga, I don't really have anything else to compare it with, but the art style is just to die for, and the plot and the magic system are so well written and put together that it just makes me so excited to continue reading it. But let me tell you a bit about what this manga series is about. So we are following mainly our character Coco that we can see here on the page of the first volume. And Coco is a normal girl. She's very fascinated by the idea of magic because in this world, magic exists, but it is only performed by witches. In this world, you have to be born a witch. You can't become a witch, or at least that's what the population is led to believe, right? When she was a little kid, Coco was at this festival at the castle with her mom, and she meets this very mysterious witch that is giving her a book of spells and a wand that is actually a pen. So all of her life, she just looked at this book, but all she could see were just like random drawings, like she didn't really know anything about what this book contained, right? Well, at the beginning of the first chapter of the first volume of Witch Hat Atelier, a very mysterious guy shows up at Coco's mom's tailor shop, I think it was. And this mysterious guy is a witch. Something happens, a carriage, I think, breaks down, and the carriages in Witch Hat Atelier are actually like flying carriages. And one of these carriages breaks down, so this mysterious witch, his name is Tifri, I think that's how you say his name. So Tifri has to solve the issue with the carriage because there are a lot of people that are stuck at this shop without the carriage, without being able to leave from this shop. So Tifri has to isolate himself from the rest of the shoppers so that he can perform his spell in peace. Coco, because she's very interested by the idea of magic and how it is performed, she sneaks behind Tifri and she learns that magic is not actually something that witches possess, but magic is just simply drawn on a piece of paper. She sees Tifri as he is drawing the spell to repair the carriage, and later that day, Coco starts to draw the spells that she has in that book of spells that she received as a kid. And unfortunately, something goes very wrong because she's performing spells. She's like doing magic that she doesn't have any idea about. This spell goes very wrong, and unfortunately, she turns her mom to stone. And Tifri shows up again to pretty much help her solve this issue. But the only way to do that is for Coco to become a witch, to be able to break this spell. As you progress in this series, the things that are revealed by pretty much all of the characters are just so well written. I think they provide a lot of emotional depth. I'm also very intrigued by the magic system. So as I said, the spells are not just incantations or anything like that. They're just drawn on a piece of paper. But there's an actual system to this. Like you have something in the center of the rune, you have something around it, and then it is enclosed in a circle for the spell to be activated. And I think at the end of the first volume, they actually show or like explain more in depth how the magic system works and how runes are composed, or like what are the components of a specific rune. As we progress with the action from this series, we also find out that these specific spells can be drawn on like specific objects. For example, they have these sylph shoes, I think they're called, and if you draw a flying rune on the shoes, you're able to fly with them. So they're not just having wings or possess flying as like a superpower or anything like that. They just have flying shoes or are able to make flying shoes, which I thought was very, very interesting. The last thing that I want to mention about this series is how good the antagonists of the story are portrayed. In this first volume and like in the first couple of chapters, we are led to believe that the antagonist of the story is this witch who gave Coco the Book of Spells when she was a kid. But the more we progress, the more we find out that it is not as clear-cut as that. Like, they definitely have some points, some valid points that they are making, the villains of the story. And we also find out that the quote-unquote good guys might not be as good as they seem to be. And I'm just gonna leave it at that because I would really want you to read this one if you wish to do so, because yeah, it is absolutely amazing. In the last week, I just read through the series, and yeah, it's been absolutely amazing. So as I said, currently I'm on volume 8. There are 14 English volumes currently published, and I think the 15th one is only published in Japanese as of the filming of this video, so I'm pretty sure it will be published in English as well by the end of the year. Also, this series has been picked up by an animation studio, and they're making an anime out of it. And I'm pretty sure the first season of the anime is going to be released in April, meaning this month when you're watching this video. But yeah, I am so happy that this was my first manga ever. It is so good, and I am excited to potentially finish this series in the month of April. Yeah, this was Witch Hat Atelier. And with that, this is everything I have for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know in the comments down below what you read in the last couple of weeks, months, what was your favorite book maybe, and if you have any recommendations for me to read, I would like to know that. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you guys in a new video soon here on the channel. Bye everyone!